3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by a writer, an author, a hip hop head, Ad1, aka Adam Cummings. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me down, brother.
It's we've got a lot to talk about, but that book right there is what I think a lot of it's going to be about. But before we get to that, we need to talk about your story, man. So how did you get involved in this hip hop stuff?
Well, I think it's a bit of a, I wouldn't say common story, but probably is amongst the heads, mate, particularly my age. I'm old as dirt. Nomadic family. Came from the country, moved to Melbourne when I was in about grade 6. Mm-hmm. Someone gave me a Run DMC, Raising Hell, Tougher Than Leather. Mm-hmm. Got those tapes, and the bug was bit from the moment I heard It's Tricky.
Yep. Late 80s we're talking?
We are, mate. Yeah. So that's probably around 87, 88. Mm-hmm. Much to my dad's disgust, who to the day passed away, said it was just a fad.
Really?
They're just talking, mate. They're just talking. They're not singing. They're just talking.
So he was into his rock?
He was a Beatles head.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, he never got it.
What about the crossover with Aerosmith?
Aerosmith? No. Couldn't palate it, mate.
Right, okay.
No. So I went through that struggle. Was a skater in my young days. So I think there was that sort of commonality in terms of the groups that got into hip-hop and that crossover.
Yep.
Went to high school, met up with a dude, Hiltz Beener, and he slung me a De La Soul tape, 3 Feet High and Rising, and then that was the real bug for lyricism and things like that, mate. Once I heard that, I was really, really hooked.
And they were pushing the envelope sonically and doing a lot of stuff.
Everything, yeah, they were phenomenal, so far ahead of their time. I still often say, I think both the MCs there should be in most people's consideration when you talk best MCs. It's one of those, it's funny when we do get to the book, I was chatting with Bigfoot and talking about how even now down the track you can be listening to stuff and start to realise what was being said, or that's what that means, and those rhyme patterns, and they were crazy. You know, you got songs like Millie Pulled a Pistol on Santa and things where they were ahead of their time. So that was the real bug for me, mate, and particularly lyrically. So I really got into how people putting words together and those rhyming patterns, and I went through that stubborn teenage phase of this is all I'll listen to. I am East Coast hip hop till I die. So that was me, mate. And then probably halfway through high school, we're talking year 9, I hooked up with DJ Relic, who you've had on. I'm in his episode, if you haven't watched it, folks, go back. I'm the Adam that he hooked up with that could rap, which was nice because he couldn't, but he's mighty fine on the decks.
Was he good back then?
At rapping or decks?
At the cutting, at the scratching?
He was definitely ahead of the game at that stage, yeah. We ventured into Central Station Records. I'd saved up all my bickies and bought like a little 15-second sampler. Wow. Couldn't work out how to use it to save myself, but handed over to Rel, and before you know it, we're looping and recording. Yep. So that's probably, around 91, 92. So we've sort of played in a couple of crews together. We played in a group called Idiom, and then Lost Theory for quite some time. Accidentally played a gig with him about 12 months ago, which was cool. Yeah, I hadn't played for ages, and but still sort of try and get in and watch Rel when I can. And he was playing, I'm from up in the hills, Puffing Billy Way. He was playing up there and said, come up and watch.
Sookie Lounge?
Up that way, yeah. Which used to be Ruby's, for those in the know, which was basically the... if every other pub in Melbourne put out their hard rubbish, Ruby's would come along and pick it up and put it in the joint. It was a mess, but it was unreal. Like, I had some massively good nights there, and some huge bands would come out there. It was almost the sort of, you'd get those bands that would play Fitzroy area. They'd also come out to the hills and play up there. So that was cool. But yeah, he was playing up there and said, do you want to come up and have a watch? And I was, and he said, do you want to jump up and do a track? And I was, no, I don't think so. Like, it's been a decade. And then I've got a couple of older kids, and it just became, I've spent half my life telling them how cool I was. And, if you had seen Dad when he was younger, while you're embarrassing him.
Did the muscle memory kick in and you're just back at it?
Well, Only the funny part was I was like, yeah, I can do a track. I'm in. I'll do a track. 1/6 was playing, and I hadn't seen him for a long time, and we used to gig with him a fair bit.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, it'll be good. And then I reckon about a week before the gig, Roll rang me and said, how much can you remember? Because someone's pulled out. And
Oh, really?
you got 20 to 30 minutes. You got a bill.
Wow.
So funnily enough, we did 2 old tracks, and then we actually wrote a couple of new ones and did them. So the stage vibe kicked in pretty quickly, which was good. And thankfully, probably in my old ages now, I just stuck to mid-strength prior. So I was able to remember things pretty clearly, which was good.
And were the kids impressed?
They tell me they were, which was good. And they brought a few friends, so we probably had bigger crowds than we used to, which was nice.
Yeah, nice.
No, they were. And then what was good was we ended up getting asked to come back and play again a few months later. So we said, we'll do that. My young fella, he sings a bit of blues. So we got him up and sang a hook on a track. And my nephew plays in a hardcore metal band called Scourge. And he plays guitar. And so we got him up and he played guitar for us on a track. And so, yeah, it was a nice family affair. So
Very much so.
it was good, man. So, yeah, that's sort of my journey into hip-hop.
When did you discover the Aussie stuff, though? Like, you were obviously making it, but when did you sort of discover that?
Yeah, absolutely. So early doors, we go back to youngsters calling in Chrissy on Step Into the AM. You know, where you
Chrissy was the last person to sit in that seat just there, man.
more power to Chrissy. Like, what a champion for everything she did for the scene. Like, those days, I know heaps of guests have spoken about it, but you just can't oversell how important that was at the time. So round then, mate, we were doing you make up your stupid names, your MC name or your tag at the time and call in for a shout out and sit and listen and hope they'd say it. And listening to, you're starting to hear Mama's Funk, Intense Quality, Death Wish, of course, starting to hear that then. So, yeah, that's that sort of early 90s. We're hearing that and thinking, okay, maybe this is something that we can do in our own accent. I still remember meeting Checkers early doors. We sort of spoke about this briefly. He's in the book. I think it was at a St Kilda fest through a mate of mine, Wiley, and rhyming to him at his house and him going, yeah, like, you've got some great rhymes, but you could probably make that a bit more Australian.
Yeah.
Which was some really, really cool advice. I think I had a line in there about being in the major leagues, that we then ended up flipping to being in the Little League for AFL and things like that. So, so that was early doors, mate. But, yeah, like, shout out to all those heads for paving the way.
And so that was your entree into listening to it. Are you just then, because you're a writer by trade?
Yes.
So is at that stage, are you starting to dissect the rhymes and figure it out? Like, has it been something that you eventually turned into a book, but is that just a hobby from the start?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think that goes back to that sort of East Coast lyricism. Without generalising, the West Coast was always that really funk-heavy drive where the East sort of prided itself on the New York lyricist side.
It's changed a bit now.
It has,
with
yeah,
people like
100%.
Kendrick going pretty,
100%. And even swung down south and, wherever you go now, I think, and, worldwide too. So, like, we've got some of the best MCs in the world here, which was part of the reason for the project. But, yeah, from an early age, mate, I've been really keen on words. What does that look like? My mum was a teacher, my sister was an English teacher. So that's sort of always been rammed into me. Think about the words you're using and where you put them, and to quote evidence, sometimes it's where you don't put them.
Yes.
So yeah, from that stage, mate, and particularly, I mean, when you look back and you're thinking about crews like that, like IQ, Death Wish, and Sir Rex in the book, which was huge. He did the tag on the front for me.
Oh, awesome.
The hand style there. So massive shout out to him. But you go back to those pioneers and the work they were putting in then. Stacks up again on the world stage for what it was lyrically. Like, we genuinely got some of the best in the world.
And the thing is, we talk about this so often, but the Aussie accent to other people overseas is so jarring that it finds it hard for it to get a larger audience, but it doesn't mean that people here don't love it.
100%, man. Yeah, 100%. You nailed it there. And I mean, even for ourselves, when you are going back to that 90s, late 80s, 90s, and we're going in and seeing people at Big Bamboo and, those things. it was different to the year. It really was, because you know what you know, and when all you've heard is American hip hop,
Yep.
the first time you do hear that Aussie accent, it is a different sound.
Yeah.
But then it's bizarre because once you, I don't want to say acclimatise to it, but once it becomes something you're more familiar with, now when you hear someone Australian rapping not in an Aussie accent, it sounds ridiculous.
It does. And it's, but that's a whole different kettle of fish. Some people are looking for a wider audience. Some people are putting on personas. It is what it is, but it's a debate that happens. And still to this day, people hit me up and they're like, dude, that guy. And I'm like, oh, well, you know.
And I think, like you said, it's a debate that's raged since someone first picked up the pen and the mic. Mm-hmm. And, you know, growing up through that era, it was like there was some more than just debate. You know, there was physical altercations about accents and things like that. So, yeah, it really was a topic. I lean to use your accent, hip-hop's who you are, represent where you're from.
Authenticity.
Correct. However, you also go, who am I to decide what's right, what's wrong?
At the end of the day, it's art.
Bingo.
So if someone wants to do a concept or they want to portray a character, that's their art. You don't have to consume it. You know what I mean?
Spot on. And it's the, you know, it's the art, it's the food, it's the people like what they like. And there's an audience for everything.
Yep.
So for me, I and you would have seen the names in the book, I lean towards that authentic Aussie accent. But each to their own.
So when was it always did you always have this idea? Is it
No.
Right. So
No.
you were just a student of the pen.
Yes.
And just was passionate about it.
Yep.
And the book idea didn't come along till later.
The book idea, Maloney, would have come through, not exaggerating, probably 14 months ago.
Right. So you put that into fruition pretty quickly.
Pretty quick, yeah. It was interesting, mate, because I've always said I will leave a physical book behind of some kind. So I tried my hand at fiction and written 150,000 words and then gone, I don't know if this makes sense or if I can be bothered editing.
It's a hard thing to do.
Massive. And I'd got to that point where I was like, okay, full stop. And then you go back and go, oh, I need to change that. Oh, but if I change that there, I'm changing that down and that there. And I went, no, this isn't it. Like we said, I've been a journalist for some time, predominantly in the sport space, particularly Aussie rules.
Who do you support?
Richmond.
Okay. You had some success.
Had my run.
Yeah.
Had my run. Yeah.
Rebuild stages in.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Give it another 10.
Can I, as a Richmond supporter,
Yeah, mate.
I like history.
Yes.
Why did they knock down the fucking old rooms? I know you've got to move with the times, but surely you could fucking hold on to a little bit of that heritage.
You would have thought, I would have liked to have held on to some more or even auctioned some out or whatever they could have done, because I actually have a brick in there.
Oh, wow.
So mates of mine for my 30th bought me a brick with my name and Eat 'em Alive etched in it, which they've now just turned into words on a wall.
So that's at least that stayed.
It's there, yeah. It used to be a walk of fame, and now it's a wall of fame.
Yeah.
But the club's word is to keep us in Richmond. They want to build an oval the same size as the G for training.
Okay.
And spatially, they had to do it. So they said they've been in contact regularly with the Dyer family, who the stand was after, and kept them in the loop, but to sort of get the council funding and whatnot. So.
I don't know. It's a funny one. Like, as someone who spends a lot of time in pubs, if there's an old pub that's 200 years old and you knocked it down, you're in big shit. Right?
Furious.
So I just don't understand why the same rules don't apply. But anyway, you've got to move with the times.
You do. And if it gives us another 3 and 4 years, I'll take it.
There you go.
So, yeah, it's a funny one. I've got 2 older kids and 1 younger, and my littlest one now was sort of being born and too young to remember this recent run, and is now at the when are we going to be good stage.
Oh, look, without getting too deep into it, I think you guys made the right choice of getting all those draft picks and doing that, because the expansion's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to have Tassie come in and then arguably a 20th team.
Yes.
So all these other teams that are going to be rebuilding later are kind of fucking
Compromise.
themselves.
100%, mate. Yeah. And there's nothing worse than getting stuck in mid-table purgatory where you don't
Especially
get a good
if there's
draft
20
pick.
teams.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that was the smart way to do it because
Same.
the way you traded all your picks and everything, and it is going to be a tough 4 or 5 years, but it'll change.
And I think when you got the credits in the bank of those last few flags,
Yeah.
most people my age were of a shit. I don't think I'll ever see one again.
Man, Richmond
we
was
were
the bin
junk,
for a long
junk.
time, man.
Yeah,
so
absolute
the
junk.
fact that you did, 3 and 4 years, amazing. Anyway, footy, Pete, I could
We'd
talk
go
footy
forever.
for a
Yeah.
long time, especially with someone like you that obviously knows the game in and out.
Yeah.
But let's get back onto the hip hop stuff.
Yeah.
So, how did we get onto Richmond?
So we're talking as a journalist.
Oh, yeah.
I'd said the way I write though too with my journalism, I don't like just a straight Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
I asked Maloney that, and he said, "Why'd you knock down the stand?"
Yeah.
You can do it, sure, and there's a time and a place. I prefer a bit of a narrative thread on the way through. I like to get the questions going of, right, similar to how you would do a podcast. You hear something, and rather than just be locked into, here's my list of questions, it's where are we going to take
Keep
that?
it organic.
Yeah, where are we taking that? That's interesting. Let's explore that more
Tangent, come back.
Correct, yeah. And then, as I said, I generally would write more of a story. So even with the book, what I found was the first person I interviewed was Alacor. We had a really sick chat about his track Fun and Games. And Alacor's a legend, as you would know, just a superhuman, super performer, so giving of his time and himself. And we were going through his track, and there's a line in there, "The green-eyed monster makes me obnoxious." And I said to him, talk me through that. What's that mean for you when you're writing that? And he said, jealousy is actually a real curse of mine. Like, it's probably my biggest character flaw. And I said, do you mean in terms of comparing yourself to other MCs and success? Or he said, no, just as a person. Like,
Wow.
yeah, and you're the same as me. I was like, man, I would never have picked that of you. And he
seems like such a controlled individual and
massive. Like, he gets on stage and he's one of the most energetic and outgoing dudes you'll meet. And, his work with young people's phenomenal. And so I would never have picked it. And so that sort of sparked a few chats. And we got to the end and I said, there's a real duality here. And then that went, right, that's the theme for this chapter. I'm going to thread in duality as we go. And so I actually jotted down at the top of the page, duality, wrote a definition. And then that became a link for the book too, where every chapter gets assigned a word and a definition, and there's a bit of a theme of that rolling through.
And that started with the first interview.
Started with the first, yeah. So I tend to, as I write, look for that theme and go, right, what's going to be the shape of this? And
It's interesting. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go for it.
It's interesting because that's a newer song of his. So it's not like you started with, I've been thinking about this track from years ago. That's from their most recent record.
It is, yeah, him and 7-6. Great record. And the way it sort of went was, going back to talking about I'm going to leave a physical book, I often, is a bit morbid, but I laugh with, you see someone famous pass away and on the news there's music of theirs or there's clips of their film or highlights, whatever it is. And I would go, man, if I died, like, my family would be upset. They'd grieve at most. Some friends would be... I'd hope devastated. Some probably would be upset for a day or two and move on. But then you're sort of gone. Yep. And I went, I want something to be left that you can go, hey, he was here and here is something he did.
Leave your mark on the world.
Correct, mate. And so that was why I'd come up with the idea of the book. I went, hey, I've got this journalistic background. I like to write that narrative. And then to our earlier chat, I love words. I love how they connect. I like hip-hop lyricism, and I personally, and I was chatting to a good mate of mine, BT, who I used to rhyme with in a crew called Rhymers Guild.
Not Brian Taylor.
No. Brad Foo. Shout outs, Brad. And he is like the biggest fiend I know. I thought I was, but he's the biggest fiend for, he will sit there and you can ask him, this Raekwon verse, and he'll say, I love how he rhymes that on the first and that on the third beat, but then brings it back on the second and the fourth in the next line. And we would have those sort of chats. And so I was always like, geez, it'd be good to be able to pick their brain and go, how intentional is that? What were you thinking? not just why did you rhyme these words, but what were you thinking when you were writing the track? What does this track mean to you? Stories behind the story, essentially.
Yep.
And so that's where I went, I wonder if there's a way for me to merge the journalist work with the song side of things and the love of hip hop. And so funnily enough, I bounced off Brad and he was like, yeah, I'd be into it. I said, do you reckon anyone else would be, or is it just us two would sit there? And he said, no, there'd be a market.
There's a lot of MCs are fans first.
Huge. And you find that out, like I personally did. And I said, you know, what I might do is reach out to 4 or 5 cats that I know and 4 or 5 that I don't, but that I really respect. And just see what sort of response I get.
How'd you do that, with social media?
Yeah. So just on Instagram predominantly, or if, you know, Raoul had some connections with a couple and things like that. But
he's done cuts for a lot of people.
Oh, huge, ludicrous.
Catalogue's deep. Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah, massive. He's the hardest working dude I know in that space. Biggest whinger about it, but the hardest working dude I know. And so I started with, like I said, I was playing that gig with 1/6, and a lot of credit and kudos to him because we talk about it in the book, he's one of the most creative cats you could ever meet, like just at everything.
Holds the record for the longest ever podcast episode at just over 4 hours, I think.
Man,
Two-parter.
I was going to say he's one of the only humans I know that talks more than me too. We have a thing I say where mine are quite often IKEA sentences. So if I do that to you, it's flat packed with a lot of words and you can piece them together. And Sixth is the same, particularly with some drink under his belt. But I said to him, I've got this idea. What do you reckon? And the first thing he said to me was, man, in the world of AI, particularly at the moment, ChatGPT and everything, I don't think there's been a more important time to shine a light on creatives and the people behind the songs and just show their process.
Because this is a bit of a bookmark in time where we know that this stuff is pre and post AI at everyone's fingertips.
Bingo. Yeah, absolutely. And like the list of names, which I'm sure we'll touch on a heap, but like it goes from some OGs like Sarek, like man, getting Sarek in there and then to do a hand style, like what an honour. But through to a lot of artists today. And as we were saying, you know, so many have been through this show. But that just really resonated. And I sort of pinched that off Sixth and started using it when I was reaching out to people as, hey, this is the thinking behind this.
Yep.
And then I reckon of about the first sort of 4 or 5 that I knew, so a few cats like P-Link and Down Pat and J-Mac from Tranquil Artillery, we used to play back in the days, and the Raw Authentic crew these days.
Yep.
They were like, yeah, that's dope. We love it. And, you know, they're some of the greatest MCs in the country. So getting the nod from them of, yeah, this is something that we think could work was a big plus. I reached out to Bias and he was like, yeah, I love the idea.
He'd be down for the cause, I could imagine.
Yeah, man, that was such a dope track. We broke down In Love with the Music, which was just brilliant conversation. He's such a legend to chat with.
Did you pick the tracks?
No, here we go.
Okay.
That's interesting too, because one of the things I found on the way through, and there's an element, mate, I'm sure you find in your role here too, where because a lot of the people in the books were heroes of mine, you know, idols, you're talking Trem, Lazy Grey, Delta, like Bigfoot, like just icons, and the lists just go on in there. You forget they're people too, like you genuinely do. And so a couple of the people that I knew in advance, it was slightly different. But then there was some that I'd reach out to and they would say, yeah, that's a dope idea. I'm in. And you'd go, okay, what track would you like to talk about? I'd give them first pass. And sometimes there'd be radio silence for weeks. Then what I found as the process rolled out was, and it varied person to person, of course, but often people were, I don't want to say concerned, but were really giving thought of what track do they want in a book besides some of the other names? Like, how does it fit in? Or am I looking for something really technical, or do I want something really emotional with a story? Or so people, and then you get people like, you know, Dill Thomas, who has a back catalogue as big as Relic's just about, and you're sitting there and you go, oh man, and I'm asking you to pick a song, and you've probably got hundreds and hundreds.
Well, yeah, Bias has put out 4 albums this year.
This year.
So the catalogue runs deep. So, yeah. So I would have thought, and this is, I'm sure you'll tell me, but I would have thought I'll select like a little short list and let them pick from that.
That's what we got to.
Okay, yeah.
That's what we got to. That's what we got to. So at first, my naivety was, if people are interested, they'll go, oh, yeah, cool, here's a track, let's talk about it. And then I think from memory, there's about 28 people feature in the book. Each one is a chapter on each track.
Over 500 pages.
It is, yeah. We say it's bigger than the Bible. You stand it up beside a cornflakes box and it's just about the same size. So it is huge. And when I say 28, I was also really, really lucky enough to get Rob Nat to do the foreword, which is sick. Like if you've seen his writing at uncut.com and his book, like he's so good at writing and interviewing, and like he's worked with US names and broke US names over here beyond belief. So yeah, big shouts, Rob Edelson. He's an absolute legend. And it was funny when I reached out to him and said, hey, would you be interested in penning a forward? He said, flick me a couple of chapters, and he rang me the next day and said, yeah, look, this is a dope concept. And he said, but I don't listen to a heap of Aussie hip hop. Does that impact you? And I said, no, I just want someone who's written about hip hop in general and the importance of lyricism. And it was funny because when I said to Trem, Robbie said he's going to write the forward. He said he probably won't know half the tracks in the book. But, man, his forward, he smashed it. It's just a perfect mix of there's some humour, there's some insight into writing and stuff. So, but, yeah, just getting back to that, to the sort of short list, I reckon at about 10 interviews, I started doing what you said. I would send, here's a list of 3 or 4 that I personally like, and here's a reason why I like them.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and that could have been a moment in my time, a timestamp. It could have been lyrically, I think you do this, this, and this well, and here's a couple of the lines I love. Story-wise, where it fits in your catalogue. We did some things like that. So one of the most interesting ones there was Trem, and obviously big shout-outs to Trem, where he sort of said to me, you know, which are you thinking? And I rattled off a few, and, you know, you could pick any of his. And I said, but the title track off For the Term is my favourite, and here's why. And we talk about that in the book too, but it was really interesting. He came back and went, wow, that's my favourite of my own.
Oh, wow.
And he said, but I'm not sure that everyone else feels the same way about it. I feel like it sort of flew under the radar a bit compared to some of my other tracks.
But he would have made it the title because he felt, you know what I mean?
We talk about that. So it was actually the last track he penned for the album, and he had the title of the album, and it comes from a book, For the Term of His Natural Life, and it's about a convict, and he said that all tied in really well, and he said, I just felt like it needed a title track, and then anyone who's heard it knows how much he absolutely smashed it out of the park. Like that's got some of my favourite hip-hop lines ever in it, that track. So like getting to talk about that and break down his thinking. And I also I sprinkle a bit of my own analysis of the rhyme patterns. So I'll do that, you know, that heads might miss. So it might be, hey, you might not notice, you might just be looking at that end rhyme, but there's some internal multis, and here's a theme that runs through, and some double entendres like you get in Trem's track where he says, my sole purpose is getting rid of these worthless scene queens. And you say, well, that soul, depending on how you take it, could be my soul, my individual purpose, or my soul's purpose. So we do a bit of analysis on things like that too. So yeah, it was really cool getting to then go back and forth on here's some tracks. Other people were just straight away, like Fracture, who was phenomenal to work with. He was just straight away, yeah, we're doing Together, which is the track he did with Alec Jones and Scotty Hines. Yeah, I think that's up to nearly 6 million views on YouTube.
But it's up in like a few different streaming platforms with millions of views.
Millions.
Because they've used an iconic instrumental as well.
Correct. Yeah. So he breaks down that in the chapter, talking about coming up with the instrumental. All the verses are different lengths. He talks about that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. 2 of the verses start off very similar opening lines. We talk about, if you've seen the film clip, him filming that on his phone with the boys down at the park and then editing it in with some clips like Joe Hockey and things like that. And like, what a dope, it's a dope track and a dope chat. And yeah, so Frack was just straight away, yeah, I'm in. I know this track.
Yep.
But others, it was a bit of back and forth and, sort of here's some tracks I like.
Mm-hmm. So that's it. And this has got me thinking already. I know we're not talking about a sequel, but like, I'm just thinking, you know, you get a track like that, then you've got Scotty's verse and then you've got Alex's verse and then you can, you know, if you've got featured artists, you can start pulling them together. Anyway,
Well, I do have on the cover volume 1. I don't know if there will be a volume 2. It's a monumental.
It's pretty much everyone. This is obviously a text-heavy book.
Yes.
But anyone that I know, if you talk to Baylor, you talk to anyone who's done a graph book, most people that I've had on here that have done a book said they'll never do it again. Pretty much everybody, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I reckon in my head, I'd do it again. Yeah. In my wife's head, that might be another thing. There was a lot of, when you're working full-time and you got kids and family.
But you don't have to execute it in 14 months.
No.
That's the thing. Like the next one, you could take 5 years.
Correct. Yeah, correct. It's funny. I work and write pretty quickly once I'm in. But yeah, a lot of people were sort of surprised. I know Fluey, and again, I'll probably end up saying this every chapter, but his is ludicrous. We did Synthetic Love, and it's one of the most complex tracks in terms of rhyme patterns and play off. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the first verse is him personifying addiction, and then the second verse is him sort of rallying back against it, and there's lines that marry up and play against each other, and like crazy skill. Yeah, which is his pen game's ridiculous. And so I remember him saying to me, when do you reckon it'll be out? When I told him, I said, oh, wow, man, like I thought you were going to say 2 years. And I think when I interviewed him, I was like, maybe 3 to 6 months from that point, and he was sort of gobsmacked. So yeah, this one did go quick, but yeah, there was a lot of hours, sort of 10 till 2 in the morning. At the keyboard.
Did you want to get it out at a certain? You had a deadline in your head?
I didn't have a particular deadline, but I am very fussy on once I start it, I want to go. And I think there's also, rightly or wrongly, I felt a little bit of a courtesy to the artists as well, that you go, you know, as I said, Alacor was first, and so for him it's been a 12 to 14 month wait, whereas from others it's been three months, 6 months.
Yeah, and the relevance does play a part because, you know, I know other people with certain books, they've said, I forgot what I said because it was so long ago. So you kind of want to keep it as fresh as possible.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And, you know, people change over time.
Exactly.
And, we change. One of the things I did with each chapter too, which some writers won't, particularly in sort of the news field, is I would share the chapter back with the artist. Here's my first draft. It's a bit rough. It's good enough for you to get a feel for what I'm doing. Yay or nay, particularly once I think you sort of owe it to them and are a bit obligated once you start to tie in that theme, when it's not just a Q&A. Because when it's a Q&A, it's, I asked you this, you said it.
It's a dangerous game though, man. Look, I'm just likening it to me sending you this tomorrow and you're cool, but a lot of people are overly self-critical and they'll be like, edit this, and this. And I don't do that now unless I have to really talk them off the ledge and they don't want to put the episode out. I won't send it to them because, no, do you know what I mean?
Man.
It's a danger because people are just critical of themselves.
100%. And I reckon for the most part, I was pretty lucky or had sort of captured it well, however you want to look at it. Most people were good. There was a couple who had just said a few things like, oh, look, can we just change a couple of words? Or I wish I hadn't have sworn as much.
Because you're doing these on the phone.
Yeah, some in person, some on the phone, and then a lot of back and forth on emails and things like that too, particularly with drafts. Some people it would be, let me email you up some questions first and we'll work from there and work back what fits for your schedules and things like that. A lot of Zoom calls, team chats, particularly because it is Australia-wide. So there was a lot of that and I would record them all. But everyone was good. I think like there was an artist who said to me, hey, look, I talked in my chapter, nothing you've done, but I talked in my chapter about a particular time and place and I was drunk. I've had some family history with alcoholism and I'd rather that not be in writing for my kids if they read the book. Cool, we'll take that out and change it. Bigfoot, like massive shout out to Bigfoot. Bigfoot's been amazing through the whole book. Like great to bounce ideas off. Would always offer a really strong opinion, but always respectful and have you thought about. He and I went through his chapter a few times, and that was like at the start, I had framed his around. I personally think people don't. Not people. I think there's a segment of the audience, particularly those who aren't hip-hop heads, who wouldn't appreciate how technical Biggie is. I think there's people who probably his persona and his gruff voice and he's a big man. So I'd sort of done a framing thing of like the Fantastic Four, where you might think of him as the thing he's going to punch and smash and crash, but really he's like the leader, the professor. He's analytical, academic, he's research, like he's phenomenal. And there's a reason why he has murdered so many guest spots, so many of his own. Like if you sit and break down a track like we do, it's phenomenal. But I'd sent him through that draft and he quickly replied back and said, hey, I'm not really into comic books. So I feel like that's a bit of at contrast with who I am. Can we change that? And so we did. So we went more of it being almost like an academic research paper and the work we put in. So his track in there, mate, is Double Impact from Royals, Bloodsport. And if you listen to it, and if anyone listens to it, and I encourage you all to do so, he talks about MMA, he talks about UFC, he talks about kickboxer, he talks about, for the UFC heads, he talks about getting someone in a Peruvian necktie till they can't breathe. And I'm a big fan. So I was like, oh, wow, can we chat about...
That would have gone over my head. I don't know much about it, but yeah, there you go.
And I was talking, can we talk about UFC? And he went, I got no idea, dude. I said, what do you mean? He said, I just knew that, what Royals was calling the album and that it was themed around Bloodsport. So I started with Van Damme references and I worked my way back and I Googled and I did this and I looked. And you listen to this verse and you will think he sits and watches UFC.
There you go.
All day, every day. And so things like that, that's another really important part of the book for me. Once I'd sort of got the concept down was how do we shine a light on how creative and how technical these MCs are? Because I sort of give a note at the end of the book talking, there's been a long, long time where hip-hop in this country has been viewed as the little brother, the poor cousin that, it's my dad. It's not music. You're not even making your own music. You're sampling, you're taking other people's. Yep. Shake our fist, we're angry. But like the songwriters in this country are ridiculous. And so it was important for me to be able to show that side too. And funnily enough, another legend, Lazy Grey. So I'd sort of started, you set yourself a list of a few heads that, if they'd be in it, this would be a dream come true. And talking about trying to reach out over socials, I'd tried a few times to get a hold of Laze and couldn't. And I didn't know Lazy at all. And then after talking to Bias, we sort of wrapped up his interview and he said to me, oh, that was really dope. You're across it, you understand it. Probably more than I expected you would. I really enjoyed it. Is there anyone I can help you get in touch with? And I was like, Lazy, maybe? And he said, I'll put in a word, but Laze doesn't love interviews. And I said, yeah, I know. With Beers, Beats and the Biz. He talks about how much he hates it.
And it took him a long time to do that one.
Exactly, and that's with a best mate.
Yeah.
So I was, it was a pipe dream, but same thing. Then I spoke to Morns. And Morns is, you talk to Morns for 3 minutes and everyone's enthusiastic about life, and he's just a legend as well. And we did his track, LMNOP.
Which is it's got a concept in itself.
Correct. And so getting to break down that with him and hearing how he was like literally counting and mapping out syllables, and if it didn't line up, he would scrap it and go back. He said I was literally punching holes in the wall where I was living because it was so frustrating. Like, it is phenomenal, that track. And he was the same at the end. Anyone I can help you?
Yep.
I said, Lazy maybe. And he said,
so he's getting it from different angles now.
And he was, well, I don't know if they ever did. They said they would. Yeah. There's also that element of, you don't want to push the general, especially if he's not comfortable.
It's hard, isn't it, though? Because, I do it with this, man. You want to say, yep, come on, but you don't want to be too pushy.
Correct, 100%. And there is, like I said, if there's 28 people in that book, there would be another 228 that I would have either loved to have or didn't get back to me or,
What you'll find is that now this is there. All those people, not all, a lot of them will be like, oh, man, sorry. Yeah, like I would do it.
Yeah.
It's what happens, man.
Human nature. Yeah, human nature. Even so, from like back in the start, I can remember when I did reach out to Trem, he was like, man, dope concept. It'd make a good podcast. Someone else has mentioned maybe doing something similar for a podcast. And he said to me, if you get a real dope lineup of lyricists, let me know. I said, oh, that's cool. Here's 5 or 6 I've got. And he was straight away, yeah, oh, dude, like dope lineup, I'm in.
Yep.
But there's also that element, as you'd know too, like you reach out over Instagram, does it get through? Do people have blocks where it's unless you're...
It's once you get over a certain amount, like I've only got like 10,000, but once you get over a few thousand, there's all these different inboxes and you don't see who, and you don't know where it goes.
100%. And you also get an email or message reaching out from someone that you don't know, which is me, going, hey, I'm putting together a book. And you're like, I don't know, what's this going to be? Do I want to be part of it?
Yeah.
So I totally get that. So, I mean, there would have been heaps of other people I would have loved to have had. I think
your list would be about 250 or so. Did you have a whole list?
I had a list of like, here's 30 to 40 that would really, really be cool. But then as you go, you start going, oh man, but what about, I hadn't thought of. And so I reckon I'd be up a couple of hundred that I'd love to talk to. But I mean, if you were to sit there and go, how many of the main ones did you get that you wanted? I'd probably say 75%.
Oh, that's a good strike rate.
Yeah. And it helps once you build a bit of momentum, and that's why I'm always...
One door opens another.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Once you get bias saying, oh, what about this? And then I'm guessing they might even add names to your list that you didn't think of. You're like, I didn't even really think they'd be interested. They're like, no, I'll talk to them.
Definitely. Yeah. He had said to me at the time, are you talking to Biggie? And I said, I've reached out to him. And he said, he'll love it. This is right up his alley. Mm-hmm. So I was thankful there. And then it was funny. I tried off Laser's webpage, but he's just got a message fill out form. And then one night I was sitting at home watching TV and I'd been waiting for an email and the phone beeped and I was like, oh, good, that'll be someone checking off a draft of the chapter to say, yeah, happy or change this. And it was Lays.
Emailing you back.
Yeah. Because I think I'd sent him one more message and said, hey, this is my last swing for the fences. Hail Mary.
Yeah.
What do we got? And just an absolute quality human to work with. But his first question was, hey, just want to confirm, you mentioned this is about breaking down a song. It's about the lyrics more than it's about me. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, absolutely. But it can be what you want. It's your story. I'm just helping to tell it is how I'd sort of pitch it.
Yep.
And so we narrowed down a song. We did City on the River, which is ridiculous. And just to sort of tie it back, when you're talking about the quality of lyricists in Aussie hip hop and that poor cousin vibe that has been a stigma. I mean, I think we're breaking through that, but there's still elements that look at it and, hip hop, you're a musician. Oh, you're not a musician. That sort of conversation. Need to know how good these lyricists are. And I went through this chapter with Lays and City on the River being so, and Lazy being so Queensland, Brisbane, that angle. The theme that had sort of come through was I went, you can hold Lays up lyrically to international artists. And I reckon Lays gets mentioned 6 to 10 times by other MCs in the book as the MC's MC.
In their lyrics or just in the conversation?
In the conversation.
Right.
When they're talking, well, both.
Both, yep.
Both. But when you're talking about like who their influencers are, who their favourite MCs are, things like that, Laser's name always pops up. And so I'd done this angle of, hey, you could compare him to Cool G Rap in terms of the technicalities. You could compare him to Strut. They're on that tier together of lyricism. And I said, but there's one that you might not think of that resonates for me, and that's Paul Kelly.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say before that when you say your dad doesn't get it or whatever, and even my dad doesn't,
yeah,
he's the best reference to say, hey, it's like Paul Kelly stuff. You know what I mean?
Bingo, man. You get it.
Yeah.
You get it. If my dad was here, I'd get you to have that argument with him.
But it's the same. He does poetry and rap more than he sings not when he started, but later in his career.
Definitely, yeah. And he's got that tone, and he's got that. He's not doing vocal gymnastics. He's telling a story and putting you in a moment.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what Lays does. Mm-hmm. You hear, Paul Kelly behind the bridge looking over the MCG, right? You know where you are. City on the River, Lays does that with his lines where you're in Brisbane. And so I'd sent this draft back to him, first draft, and then you sort of. Please love it, please love it. And there was a bit of radio silence. And I was like, oh, he doesn't, he keeps to himself.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And sometimes people, life and other stuff,
Correct. It's my priority, doesn't mean it's everyone else's priority.
True. Yeah.
So you're spot on there. And then I sent him an email because it had gone quiet for a bit. And I said, hey, I just wanted to check in. Has that Paul Kelly part thrown you off? I was just, because you're still going... Comparing someone to someone, do they feel the same way? Is it an insult? Is it
Yeah, or is it something that they're like, I don't know if I'm worthy of the comparison?
And that's where we landed. So Lays eventually wrote back and said to me, look, the Paul Kelly thing has thrown me a tad, but only because I don't know if I'm worth being put on a pedestal beside someone the quality of Paul Kelly. And so I said to him, nah, look, to me, and part of this project is to do that, to show people how good these lyricists are. But I said, look, here's a couple of alternatives, framing ways that we can do it. Think on it and get back to me. And he came back to me and he said, look, no, my partner is a mad Paul Kelly fan and says, yes, you're worthy. But would you maybe change, I think I'd reference 3 songs. Could you maybe change this one for this one? I went, oh, that's infinitely better comparison.
Yep.
And we were away. So yeah, it's really interesting. And that probably goes back to that earlier chat we were having where they're all people. Yes, they're phenomenal songwriters and MCs and artists, but they're people.
And they want to leave their legacy like you want to leave your legacy in the book. They want to do it as well.
Correct.
So that's the thing. So they're like, okay, you've done it really well with the print media version of it, because if you tried to get these people to talk on video, they can't have the back and forth and they can't have that stamp of approval on how their legacy is going to be left in a physical form.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And even like when we're talking about that technical breakdown, once I knew what song the artist wanted to do, I would then flog that for 2 weeks in my ears, listening for, wow, that rhyme, and wow, that's crazy. A track like Checkmate's Facts, and Checkers has that real, almost like an evidence flow at times. Other times he's everywhere, but it's just a really subtle delivery on it. But the rhyme patterns and the technicality and the things like repetition that he does are crazy. And we talk in there, he said he wrote the whole thing as one long verse, but then realised the middle part would make a dope hook, and just that creative process too on it. It's just amazing to hear.
Is there times where because you listen to songs so much that you've picked up stuff, you brought it up with the MC and they're like, I didn't even realise that myself. It just happened as part of the process. Yeah,
potentially there's a couple like that. More often it was people saying thank you for digging into it. So for example, Bit of Belief out of WA and Syllabolics, he sent me back a beautiful message going, I really appreciate that there's heads who do check and listen for things like that. Particularly, I think though, to your point there, particularly when you're looking at things like metaphors, definitely, because then it's open to interpretation a bit as well. There was another one with Nels Dialect where I'd heard one thing and pitched it back, and he was like, well, that makes sense to you, but this is how I meant it when I wrote it.
But that's the interesting thing about art.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, if you're talking Nelson, his writing so in-depth and complicated and poetry and technical, and that there's layers upon layers upon layers there to unpeel.
You know what you got to do, man? You got to give the book to Paul Kelly.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he'd love it, man.
Yeah, you're probably right. And with the reference in there, that'd be dope.
Yeah. You can find him in St Kilda. I see him around.
Yeah, no, that would be dope. Because, undoubtedly one of our best songwriters, isn't he?
Yeah, man.
So you can see I've grown out of the stubborn. I'll only listen to East Coast hip hop.
So when you came to approaching all these different artists,
Yeah.
once you get one
Yes.
or two or three or four, are you using that as some bargaining chips for the others?
100%.
Oh,
100%. Yeah. And that, as I said, that's what got Trem over the line was the first 4 or 5 names I had in. He was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. But then conversely, that intimidated a couple of people.
Yeah.
I don't know if intimidated's the right word, but for
It was
example...
daunting for some people.
Correct, yeah. Like if we talk about someone like Grace Chia, who I know you...
Yep, she's
really,
been on
really
a couple of times.
Oh, man,
I
Grace.
think she's an amazing MC.
Amazing, and phenomenal human. Her story in there is incredible. And I'd been sort of following her and thought, wow, like dope. Plus, typical Aussie hip hop scene, it's a sausage fest. So, I really wanted to get some female representation in there too. And I love Grace's work, like that mix of poetry but technicality, her delivery's incredible, puts on a show, and the work she puts in down in Tassie is like ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. So I was like, I hope she says yes. She wrote back saying, are you sure?
Yeah.
This is sort of, I'm a bit shocked. Are you sure? Like seeing some of the names in there, do you want me? And even to the point, I'm sure she won't mind me saying that we had our interview scheduled, and on the day she actually said, oh, look, if we need to reschedule this, feel free, but can I change the song I was going to do? Yeah.
So you've got to prep yourself then on the spot.
And I said to her, it's fine. I said, look, there's normally, like for most chapters, there's sort of, and I'm sure you're the same with the pod, where you go, I've probably got 5 or 6 questions up my sleeve that are fairly standard, that'll hopefully spin off into other things. And then I will go through the lyrics and we'll talk about lines. But with every MC, we basically went through every line of the track. And so I said to her, if you can just send me the lyrics, so I've got them, we'll work this out and make it happen. And that's that reasoning of, she sort of, the first track she picked, she thought was more a technical hip hop song. And then she said, but I was feeling like, what do I need to pick to sit alongside these other names in the book?
Yep.
I feel like this next song. So she chose Poet Pilots, which is incredible. And she said, I feel like this is a better representation of me and who I am. And I went, well, it's your chapter. Again, back to, as wanky as it sounds, your story that I'm helping to tell. So you make sure you're comfortable. We'll work around that.
Yeah, but to do that with 29 different artists, like your email threads would have been back and forth and a lot. Like we're talking a lot of communication to get that all done within just over a year.
Yeah, massive, mate.
Do you enjoy that part of the process too, though?
I do. And even work-wise, that's sort of a common part of the goal. And then part of, the role of when you're doing that is the chase and the, yes, I've got, oh man, this person said yes. And oh, they've ticked off the draft and things like that is enjoyable. And hip hop heads, we'll drag things out for as long as we can if we have to normally.
Yep.
And again, like you said, when you're dealing with that many different people, some would be bang the next day. And again, it comes back to life. People are doing their own things. You've got, again, talking someone like Checkers who's, he's mixing and mastering and making beats and performing and writing, everything, to then go, oh yeah, sure, I'll spend some time on your project as well. Like it ends up being an honour. Yeah,
for sure. And then you've got other people that they've moved on with their life. They're doing other stuff. You got someone like Grace who she's at the peak.
Correct.
She's ready. She's firing all cylinders. Yep, let's do this. I've got this gig coming up. Some other people, I haven't done a show in 10 years, family stuff,
100%. And there was even a couple of artists that I would have loved in the book where even though I'm pitching it as, it's a legacy piece, they were like, nah, I'm retired. That's behind me now, which is fine. That's their prerogative.
I could think of a few.
Yeah, definitely. And then you get a Sarek, who we'd sort of originally started chatting around. Would he be interested in maybe penning a forward and things like that? And then when I sent him up a couple of chapters, he was like, no, can I, like, what song do you want to do? And, to get someone from Death Wish, like...
It's awesome, I think, at this point in time and with the internet, some of these sort of formative figures are realizing the importance of documentation where they probably didn't take that into consideration when they were doing it. And now they're like, nah, this shit needs to be documented because we didn't have the internet when we were growing up and we need to put it out there.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, 100%. Another reason behind it was to go, hey, like I said, I think we've turned the corner a bit in terms of the respect it gets, but just a real timestamp on, hey, up until this point, look at the work people had done. And don't get me wrong, there's a couple of tracks in there that haven't been released yet.
Right.
1/6, he did a track where I don't even know if it ever will be released, but the story behind it is just ludicrous.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's really cool. And then I've been lucky enough that we're having a book launch and
On the 11th.
on the 11th of October at Union Heights. Big shout out to Frank, who is like, I mean, at the moment, we've got some of the best hip-hop shops in the world. There's sort of those 3-4 of them who are really holding it down for the scene. And Frank, for his longevity in the scene and contribution, I don't think you find too many better. So I was really, really stoked when he said we could have a launch there. It's going to be crazy. We've got half a dozen of the artists performing, about another half a dozen to 10 coming through to sign.
Who's DJ?
DJ Relic.
Nice.
DJ Relic, hardest working man in showbiz.
Indeed. Yeah.
So he's on the decks, but we'll play the tracks. And I've been lucky enough, P-Link, he's got an album, I think Trem mentioned it. He's had P-Link sitting in the stash for a while. And P did a track off that called The Saviour, which is crazy. And he said to me, well, why don't we play that as an exclusive on the night because he can't make it down.
He's in Queensland.
He is, yeah. So even on that day, we're going to play that exclusive. So that hasn't been released.
Right.
And we're thinking we'll do some readings from the book, a couple of excerpts, possibly before people perform and things like that. So here's a bit of a sample of their chapter, and then they're going to run some sets. So some names like Fracture, Alacor, the Cerberus 3 boys are going to come along with him. Grace.
Yep.
He's going to perform Dielectrics, which is sick.
Yep.
Like he's one of those ones. Like at the start, that I was like, man, if I could get D-Trix in, this would be off its head. 1/6, and then some other cats are going to come through from the book too. I've got people in there like Musty, that to get him in an interview. Like again, you want to talk contribution to a scene. You'd struggle to find too many better than Mr. Must Volkov.
Yeah. So it's going to be an afternoon.
It is, yeah. Family affair if you want. I've got older kids and younger kids, and it's 12 till 5 on Saturday the 11th. So that'll be a mixture of Rel spinning some tracks, artists performing, some readings, a couple of giveaways. Burn Clothing are going to put up a pack for us as a giveaway too. So yeah, it's going to be dope. Like it's just one of those things.
Are you gonna record this?
There's been an offer from a couple of people who do some videography work. A mate of mine, Dan, who used to rhyme as Tape Gun, who's phenomenal. He just did some work for Posse Shot, one of their all ages gigs.
Oh, cool.
So he is ridiculous on the camera. So obviously we've got to check with the artists too what they're keen with and not keen with. But I think there'll be a fair few, particularly the Melbourne heads that are in the book will swing through and sign some copies for people and things like that. So that'll be dope.
Speaking of signing copies, if I had this book in the last couple of years, I could have got a lot of signatures on there from people coming through.
You'll have to get them to come back now, mate. Hey, here's your hook.
Come back for a part 2. Yeah. But no, when I look through the list, it's literally like probably, you'd say 50% of the people have been on here.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, that was one of the reasons we hooked up was through those connections. And like, you could go through every name on that. I'm not going to get through them all, obviously, doing shout-outs. So shout out to all the artists who featured for their time and vulnerability and courage and lyrics. And big shout-outs to them all. But, if you bookend, pardon the pun, a book with kicking off with Delta, ending with Trem, like you'd struggle to find two better hip-hop heads, lyricists in the world. So, like, there were a lot of pinch me moments when people said they'd be in. Delta again, like to work with was just ridiculous, so giving. And again, if you're going to pick a track of someone like that, Still Kings, like, man, what a landmark track for us. And in the book, because it's obviously a niche topic. It's not like it's something that we're going out through all the gimmicks and going, hey, let's have a book signing here. But Daltz breaks down like just about every shout out, a story behind it, where they fit into his life or his hip hop journey.
Wow.
What he was thinking when he was rhyming them through. And then like that was one of the most beautiful chapters from a writer's perspective to go, and this is selfish, but to go, right, we're talking Still Kings. That means we have to talk for the Kings as well.
Yep.
So you almost get a double hit on the way through. So like that was just a dream come true. Like he absolute legend, as were they all. I can hand on heart say there was no one that I walked away and went, never again would I work with that person. Like they were all phenomenal and just so open. And there were so many
Was there any that didn't make, like, was there any that started the process and didn't make it all the way through?
There was a couple. There was a couple that just sort of, I think,
they changed their mind or whatever.
yeah, life got in the way. And then there was a couple that I was really heartbroken on, like Downside. And that just became probably a time thing by the end where we nearly did the interview 3 or 4 times with Daz and Optimus. Once when they were performing over here in Melbourne.
They were supposed to come in here as well.
So you would know the backstory with the...
Yeah. But even then I was like, you know that getting to do your sound check and come in here and going back there isn't much time, but it was a bigger thing that happened.
Yeah, they had some mess ups in the background, the poor buggers. And so I still went in and saw the show and caught up. And then because they had the tour, timing got in the way. And then when they got back, we sort of were looking at one song, but a real interesting part of the process is clearance of lyrics to print.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because they may not own the...
Correct. Yeah. So I had some real fun battles over the last... So I probably would have been finished quicker, but I spent a couple of months at the end dealing with some big publishing companies.
Did you know that was going to be an issue?
I knew you had to do it. I would ask everyone in the interviews and when I sent their draft, just confirm you're okay with the lyrics and me using them like this and that.
But you've got major labels, like you've got someone that might be affiliated with Universal or something.
Correct.
And it's not their fucking call.
Bingo. Yeah. So that was where it became the challenge at the end. So majority of artists, and again, blessing that it's that niche Aussie hip hop scene, own all their own rights or they put their music out independently or whatnot. So majority were cool. But yeah, I ended up having to deal with BMG, Universal, Sony. Majority were really good. And the artists had sent me an email to say, we're happy with you using the lyrics. So I'd pass that on. And they got cleared pretty good. There was a bit of back and forth. I won't name names, but there's a company that handles the print rights for the majority of lyrics on behalf of big companies.
So it's their job. They've got to be...
Correct. And you get it. Yeah. Like there's an element of, if I'm being brutally honest, where like I threw the toys out the cot at the start and was like, gatekeeping sons of bitches. And, you know, the artist said yes. Yeah. And so I actually did get some legal advice that I could just progress if I wanted to the point of it's Section 41 of the Copyright Act 1968 fair dealings.
Wow.
That's etched in my brain. And that basically gives you the right to, say if you imagine in a newspaper, if you're doing a review, you can quote some of the lyrics and...
Fair use.
Correct. Yeah. So it's
like sampling.
Correct. And it's if you're using it for genuine analysis and review, the fact that it's in conjunction with the artist, so I'm not just taking their lyrics and creating a poetry book, we're analysing it together. But when you're using a lot of lyrics, that becomes the tipping point. But given I had the consent and the collaboration, excuse me,
you're
approach,
halfway there.
Correct, yeah. There was one of the major labels that ended up saying, you need to give us $60.
$60?
Yeah. And I'd said, look, if this is...
Do you want a slab of VB? Like $60.
I said, you donate it to charity. Yeah. I'll donate to charity and you can say that that's on your behalf.
Is it because they needed something tokenized to...
Yeah. Correct. And I mean, again, the artists, thankfully, who it sort of was more of a challenge with, like, for example, Earthboy, like getting Earthboy in a book as well, after the Elephant Tracks contribution is crazy. And his track will surprise people, I think, that we discussed, which is, I don't know if you know Cold Front.
No.
It was a hidden track on one of his albums,
Right.
and it's almost his ode to battle rap, which is not what you'd associate. But he was like, oh, yeah, I really want to explain why I went down that path, and it's a great track. But Earthy, when I sent him a message and said, hey, look, the publisher's kicking up a stink, they own 50%, and he straight away said, give me the contact and I'll tell them where they can go.
Yeah.
And so he put a lot of pressure on the other end.
Perfect.
And they were like, yeah, cool, use
How many
it.
emails do you reckon you sent in the last 12 months, man?
Oh, thousands. Yeah, thousands, mate. Yeah.
Crazy.
So, yeah, dealing with the publishers, that was funny. It was, and again, probably naivety. At the start, I knew there was probably going to be, but then there's just that element of, you think you're dealing with Checkers, and so it's Broken Tooth, and that's him. You're dealing with Musty, and it's Pang, and that's
Once
him.
you've got Mawns and people that have signed to majors somewhere along the lines, different.
Correct. Yeah, correct. Even a couple again, like Dielectrics, he'd been with someone, but that had expired and all rights had reverted. So that was cool to clear. Poor Fracture, I got an email from the from one of the publishing companies saying, yep, you need to get this one cleared, da-da-da-da-da. And I rang him, he said, what are you talking about? He said, we've never released it, like, let alone had a publisher, because it's on that beat that we were talking about.
Yep.
And so I went back and looked, and this guy had found another track called Together that had 3 artists on it.
Oh.
And just assumed it was some Bieber-looking DJ in the States.
What?
So then but that actually helped my case too, because then I was able to
this
say,
guy's not even doing his research.
correct. I was able to say, hey, this is a cash grab now.
Definitely.
Cool.
Is there, if you did do a sequel, is there any artists that you've got at the top of the list that may not have been on the first one?
Oh, heaps again. Like, I could go for days, but like Downside would have to be in, because I just love Downside, everything they do in terms of as humans and artists. And I mean, then throw Layla in the mix. Like, man, I'd love to speak to Layla. The Oars, Sesta, some of my favourite Taunts. Like, what a contrast too, and like his rhyming style and patterns. He's just phenomenal and been in the game for so long. Because it is funny. I sort of
Did you reach out to Taunts?
I had, didn't hear back, but I also, to be fair, don't think Taunts is too high on going through his inbox to see who's reaching out about a story. How would have been awesome, like particularly with.
He didn't get back to you?
No. But again, I don't know if it's you reach out on Instagram, like you said, is it going through to that message request file?
Look, and as you get this out there and it gains more and more momentum, you'll start to get those people that follow you back, and when they follow you back, then you can directly message them. But I guess before, when you're starting that Instagram account sort of at the start,
Correct.
You go, all right, so Bias is in, so if I get him, I can go, and you can start to navigate.
Bingo. And you do go, like, as you can see how thick it is, like it's about 150,000 words. I think it comes in at about 520 pages. You have to stop somewhere too. You have to draw the line. Like, in my head initially, I thought probably 13 to 15. If I could get 13 to 15 dope MCs, like, wow, what a book. And then it kept going. And I did do a little bit. So again, like if you talk of someone like a Taunts, I did go, in around that collective. I've got Bigfoot, I've got Checkmate, Fracture sort of affiliated.
You don't want to
Broken
make it
Tooth.
too heavy, yeah.
It just from the same crews. So I started to almost look at crews that I like as well. So, bit of belief. We got Syllabolics represented.
And you want all different parts of the country.
Parts of the country too, spot on. You've got the Hired Goons representation on the way through too. You've got some certified Ys, heads in, Simplex is in there. Like, fuck, again, what a name. And his track is off his audio biography album. I Have Nothing. Just a brilliant track, and the story of him recording it all himself in a shed, and he'd have to run out and push one button, run back in and record and things like that. But, so you get those names on the way through too, the Raw Authentic boys. I sort of in the end started to go, how do I go around the country and try and get some of those really, really dope crews who've contributed so much.
And make sure everyone's represented.
Yeah. And obviously, like when I was talking to Nels Dialect, and he mentioned to me, he said, look, you've obviously got artists you like yourself. Are you looking at other areas? I said, yeah, of course I am. And, then you start to balance too of old versus new. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Yep. Is it just all OGs or is it representative? And I wanted a bit of a representation. So, you've got Grace, you've got Nerve.
Yep.
Things like that. So, yeah, it was really a put the feelers out, who's interested, not first come, first served, but the ones who were interested, we got it done. So
You're a pretty efficient guy, because I'd imagine that even though you said you won't do a second one, but you've already got a little list, and because people would start to come back already.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the Posse Shop boys, I would have loved to have got that in, but then you also look and go, man, people are as busy as buggery. And then getting into some newer artists, like people you've had through too, like Epic and Grizzly Bastard, and there's too many to mention. So yeah, I do have names that I would. I'd have to check with my wife after the book launch. There was a fair period there where I was.
But like I said, you don't have to rush.
True.
Just chill with it.
Words of advice, and it's funny you say words of advice. Flew. He said to me early doors, because you can probably tell even in the way I talk, I can be quite impatient and rush through.
Great for a platform like this, man.
He said to me early, and like similar to Musty, you've got these guys making beats for heads around the world that are fucking dope MCs. And I was talking to Fluey, and I was saying, he was saying who's in, how are you going getting people coming back to you? And he said to me, one of the things I've found is if someone wants to be a part of it, they will find the time, make the time.
That's true.
Yep. And that sort of stuck with me, where I then sort of was able to go through the process without getting offended. Because there is an element of, why wouldn't you want to be in it when I think it's a dope idea?
But it's timing. It's like you've got it's exactly the same as me with the podcast. There's a lot of parallels with what we're doing, but like people, it's just the timing's not right. They're not feeling it. They're not in their musical state of mind.
Correct.
A lot of factors.
Life.
Yeah,
and life. I would end up putting that in the emails when I was reaching out. So I think that helped me too. I remember chatting with Gecko, Phil Gector, and man, another sick chat. He's one of the most humble. That all the MCs, like for an art form that has a lot of braggadocious flavour, humble humans, like all of them to a person. And Gex, when I chatted, his was hilarious because he'd committed and said to me, can we do it in about 3 or 4 weeks? I think he said at the time he was going to Thailand. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. We'll chat later on. Sent him a message the day before. We still on? Yeah, mate. Called him and he was, hang on, just getting comfortable. I'm in Thailand. I said, you're in Thailand? We don't have to do this while you're on holidays, mate. And he's like, oh, no, I'm in between moving houses and it worked cheaper to take the family on a trip to Thailand than to try and find a place short-term rental.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like just a and his chat, like he is a genius, but we start his chapter with, he said to me, I hope you can get something out of this because I genuinely don't think about my music too much, just happens. But then you talk to him and you go, nah, man. Like,
but they're doing it subconsciously, a lot of the people.
There's a lot of people who talk about stream of conscious in the way they write. And then that you nailed it because that was our chat. And his theme became, if I'm correct, eclectic. And it's about, to get that stream of conscious though, you still need to fill the library to be able to get the book out when you need it. And like you talk to him and he's talking about incorporating his family's Cockney slang. Like the track we did is Armitage Shanks, which is a British toilet brand. And you go, stream of conscious doesn't just bring that out. You've got this from somewhere. And we talk about, he's reading Crime and Punishment at the same time as he's reading a book on boxing because Fluey gave him a book on boxing. And so he's got all these eclectic tastes that then come out when he spits. And then you get other people that talk about, like Grace, she's very visual and a real visual artist. So she says she does a lot of personification of items in her rhymes where she imagines the texter. So there's a line in there about I let my nibs bleed. And she's talking about, at that stage, I was writing heaps, but I'd left texters on the bed and they were bleeding into the doona. And she said, and I could imagine peering out from the drawer, looking over the top and seeing this happening, and their characters, these texters. And so that's her writing. So like the process, and anyone who's into lyricism and the art of creating a song will love it, because there's just so much breakdown. And, you know, again, majority of them, but I remember Trem saying, you know, people need to study and pay respect to the art if you want to be an MC. So, you know, you get that all the way through. So, yeah, it's really dope. But just, again, you just pinch yourself and go, what do you mean I got a book with?
Yeah. You look at the list of names and you're like, oh, I've ticked off pretty much 75%. That's an amazing strike rate.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm lucky enough to have one now.
Yes.
I'm guessing that some other people that are in the book have got one already.
Yes. Well, they've either got them or getting them as we speak.
Okay. Which you've got at least 29 people there that have got to get one.
Yeah, correct.
So if people want to get one now, they can pre-order.
Yes.
Or they can get down to Union Heights on the day.
They'll be on sale at Union Heights for sure. As I said, Burn Clothing's coming to the party with a giveaway for us as well. So people who buy one on the day will go into that. Order-wise at the moment, we've got a Behind the Lines.big cartel page. People can get on an order. Shipping time's pretty good at the moment. I think it's probably about a week from ordering through to getting dispatched. So we've had some really good pre-orders so far, but...
Do you know how many are going into production, or you're waiting to gauge that?
Waiting to gauge at the moment. So the good thing is the first pre-order batch, I've just said to the printer, print. And so that's been 100 copies.
Is this happening locally?
It is. Yeah. Tried to keep everything local. It was interesting. I pitched the idea to a couple of publishers to see if they were keen, because obviously, you know, that's the dream, get it in their bookstores and things like that. Few challenges and a few red flags I had, where one that was interested and would have been a good fit, but they wanted to slash back a couple of names.
Right. Because they were too provocative, or
more so not enough followers.
That shit getting in the way of the actual art is fucked.
Correct. And that was why I was straight away, not happening.
Because they're just thinking about how can we leverage this on our social media to then,
Spot on. I mean, because you go through, there's names in there, like if you're talking Nerve dominates social media. Like he's brilliant at it. He's a genius. And he's, I can't remember, Instagram, call it 80,000 followers. But then you get some other names in there. So we've got J Mac and Edwards, which is the only collaboration that we did. And like that was so interesting, because you've got one rapping in Spanish, one in English, how it sounds, just a dope track. And again, two legends. But follower-wise, you're probably talking 1,000. And so, you know, if you're getting people going, oh, we want to leverage the socials, that's not what I did. And I would never say to someone I'd interviewed and written a chapter, you didn't make the cut.
No.
And then another one that probably could have been a good fit. And I've had people ask, why didn't I? But that was, we want to cut it in half and do two, volume 1 and volume 2 with 14 chapters in each. Again, just to maximise the cash. And for me, I went, no, how do I tell Grace Chia you're in a book with Trem, and then all of a sudden you're in a different volume?
Yeah.
But
this is the better one. Look, we talked earlier about when you had to clear stuff. At least with this way, if you do it independently, you own all your stuff. You know what I mean? You can't have them repressing it, putting some whack cover on it and putting it out there, and you're like, this is not how I envisioned it.
100%. And so even there, creative control was all mine. Worked with Raoul, design.
So he did that, Relic did the design?
He helped me out heaps with that, I gave him a, here's my concept template. Then I got the hand styles front and back off Sarek.
And it even looks like the tape is like, it's sort of physical. You've obviously got the coffee stain there.
Yeah.
The back with the Hello My Name Man. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And the rhyme book. Which
correct.
Makes the most sense.
Yeah, so that was perfect. And even on the back there, like people say, why is there no blurb? And I say, well, you don't have a blurb on a rhyme book or a black book. And that's what it is. If I think again, even, you talk about getting it into stores and you go, sure, that'd be great. But I also don't know what the target audience is walking into call it again, a Dimmicks and going, oh, here's a book on Aussie hip hop,
Yeah.
I'm going to take that. You're either keen for it or you're not.
Man, there's an independent store down here, and you'd see places like that. They might take it on consignment, right? And people, if you're going to go buy a book from a physical store, I'd like to think that people are going to small stores now
Spot on.
anyway than going to Dimmicks or whatever.
Yep.
Or if you're going to buy it online, you fucking buy it online.
Absolutely. And I mean, like the local stores, you know, again, Frank at Union and the crew down at Harry's have all said they're keen to put some on the shelf. 420 Superstore up in Queensland.
You probably move more in record stores than you would in bookstores.
I think so too, particularly because it's so niche.
Yeah.
So niche.
Have you got orders from overseas?
Yes and no. Yes, because Nelson Dialects in France. And thankfully the printer who works here has a setup in London too.
Oh, cool.
And so I was able to get a one-off shipped over.
Book.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Shipped over from there for him.
Yeah, man.
Which is cool. Because they said essentially they use the same files and everything like that.
Amazing.
So that's been good.
And will you reprint them? Will there be another run?
Yeah, definitely. And there is an avenue there where I can do one-offs as well, which is good. It just means margin-wise, you're sort of basically doing it at cost.
Yeah.
Which is fine where you need to do it. For me, it's not, it hasn't been I'm going to do this book and retire and count all my pennies. It's Aussie hip hop.
Yeah.
It's
no
more
one's
my
making money.
Correct. Yeah. It's more my contribution to a scene that I love. And as I said, trying to highlight some of the dope songwriters we have.
Man, props to you for doing it and doing it so quickly. It's pretty
cheers,
impressive. Man. A lot of people have certain concepts, and even with the podcast, people are like, man, I was going to do the same thing as you. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't. Do it. So for you to actually do it, have the concept, and execute it so quickly, props to you, man.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's funny. I don't know about you, when you're in it, you sort of don't think of that. You just think you're doing it and it's a good idea and you like it. But since finishing, I've had a lot of the artists reach back and go, hey, kudos on finishing this off. Well done. I think it helped too, having a bit of an understanding of the scene, putting the work in. Because I know, like, just the other day, Bigfoot on one of the posts commented, it helps when the interviewer knows what he's talking about. And you go, like, what a compliment that is. And I think that sort of helped put people at ease a little bit on the way through.
Yeah, it might have been a dig at me. Who knows?
I don't think so.
So I get this with the podcast, man. I keep drawing parallels, but
there's so many.
But there is a lot. But I'm guessing you got people once you started to put the stuff out on socials, like, hey man, you should do my track, and it's like you got to decline these people. You're like, oh, maybe not,
Yeah, I did, mate, and I still get every now and again someone, and I've got I think I'm only 800 followers for the
It'll grow quickly.
For the IG.
It'll grow quickly.
Yeah, I get people who it's funny, and I don't know whether it's because physical books aren't the norm these days, but I'll get people messaging going, is this a book? Like, you're doing a book? Or I'll get people saying, hey, I like the way you're promoting these artists. Could you promote? And I say, look, I'm just promoting people who are in the book. If there's something dope, I'll still share it as a story or, comment and things like that. But when I'm saying, this track, and I don't know if you've seen the Instagram, but I did an announcement for each artist as we rolled out, and people were going, oh, can you do one of those for me?
Yeah. And
I was saying, oh, look, this is literally people in the book. It had a couple of quotes of people from the book, a quote of mine, and then it had an excerpt from the book from their chapter that I thought was interesting.
Yep. But it
yeah.
means you're making the moves in the right direction when people are seeing that. But I guess a lot of the younger generation, they're not even thinking about physical books.
No.
Even with some of this stuff with what I do, people go, oh, the Instagram's cool. And I'm like, yeah, but it's the YouTube. You know what I mean?
Yes.
People are just thinking, they just look at that one-dimensionally on social media when you're like, no, this is because it's a physical book.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. It's all feeding into that. You're right. And I reckon I would have had, I couldn't even tell you the number, but the amount of people who say, you're doing a physical book, why not a podcast? You're doing a physical book, why not a podcast?
Well, it does lend itself to that, and you can obviously talk and you're knowledgeable. So did you consider that route?
I did, yeah. And if you asked Relic, he would say, we're doing it. I I love the written word, and I had that in mind of leaving that book.
But it can be both.
It could be, yeah, spot on. I also think probably the way I write too, because I will move some things around and expand on post the chat, that lend itself to write, take it away, take the conversation away, sit with it a bit, come up with that theme. What else are we including on the way through? There's a lot, there's some chapters that have some sort of metaphors woven. Where like P-Link's chapter, because he by trade's a chef, so his chapter's laid out as a entree, main course, dessert on the way through with each verse and things like that. So just that physical element of once you've sat with it and gone, oh, actually, I wouldn't mind adding that. But there's always, you never say never.
Yeah. I as somebody who loves physical media, like I buy records, I buy books, I buy magazines, I do all that stuff, but I'm a bit of a culprit for not consuming this stuff, but I'll buy it.
Gotcha.
But with this, it's right up my alley because you don't have to read it start to finish. You
Correct.
can pick up and just go, all right, I'm going to check this chapter out. Maybe you don't even read some of the other ones because it doesn't speak to you, or you do.
Yep.
So it's really consumable.
Definitely, yeah. That was part of the aim too. And I've even, just to keep our parallels going, I've sort of laid it out with, rather than chapters, they're called track listings. You can skip to whatever track you like. I hope people read them all because they all add something. But then I've got outro and liner notes at the end for thank yous and some photos of people in the studio. And
Did they pick the photos?
yeah, they sent those in. So there's sort of a couple of pages of, I think there's 6 to 8. And we've got some photos of rhyme books and rhyme pages, which is sick, like the actual scribbles of the tracks that people were doing.
Amazing.
We've got photos of people in the studio recording. We've got photos of people on stage. Like there's a photo Lazy sent me of a performance, things like that. Motley, shout outs to Motley. His chapter was a really good encapsulation of what it was about. And I think before when I was saying, they're people and they're humble and they're vulnerable, and to share that was crazy. Like we stopped during our chat maybe 4 or 5 times for a few tears. And
wow,
his track is incredible. I had just played a gig with him as well and was talking to him about it. And one of the tracks he played, it's called Being Human. And the human has 3 different elements to it. It's hue as in a colour. It's you, man. It's human. It's human being human.
I think he did that one when he came in here.
Yeah, right. It's a dope track. If he did, it's got and I kept saying to him, he had a line which and I write in the book, when you hear it, you go, I'm surprised I haven't heard it more, where he talks about having a bad time with my ex. That's not a metaphor. That's what I met her for. And I was like, why hasn't someone used that more often? So we were chatting about that. But the track is about a messy breakup. He hadn't seen his daughter for a long time. So as he was going through the lines, it was bringing up emotions and feelings. And so we had to stop a few times. And I said to him, are you okay with me putting that in? He said, I'm an open book, mate. Like, include it if it helps someone else reading it, do it. Fluey was the same with the one about drug addiction. And like, you've had dope chats with Flu, and so we know what he's like just a quality dude and so open. Dundee, Dunners, we did Lucky Man. And like you go, you want to talk artists with like a varied catalogue. So his chapter talks about making a name for yourself as a battle MC where you're screaming and taking dudes' heads off, and he's tough and he looks intimidating. And then he does a song where he's playing acoustic guitar, singing about his daughter and how lucky he is. And I have a message, voice message he sent me, and he was like, oh, wow, man, you got me in the feels. Like, it's brought me back to when I wrote the song, and I appreciate your analytical side of it. And so like all of that stuff, mate, it was just incredible. Just super chats. But like you said, it's one of those things people can pick up and flip through and go, I'm going to this chapter, I'm going to that.
Any plans for potentially a hardcover?
There is a hardcover. There is a hardcover as well. Yeah, no, there is a hardcover. They got printed afterwards. So I had to bring you a paper to get it here in time.
Oh, man, but it's also, I appreciate it anyway. But I just think that design would lend itself amazing to a hardcover. Yeah,
no, there is. They're amazing. Heavy. Because it's so big.
To post,
Yeah, but good. Like, no, that's another thing where you go, even just for myself, like to hold it in your hand and go, here's something I've done, was sick. And I think another thing that really resonated for me was like when we're talking about skipping through chapters and what would you like, and a couple of the beta readers I had that weren't hip hop heads, because I just want to see how it would land with people who weren't, because there is a lot of technical analysis and things like that. They were like, oh man, that made me go to the track, listen to the track, read through, and then listen to it again and go, wow, now I'm seeing it through different eyes.
And that is the perfect way to really do it, isn't it?
Definitely.
Have you made a track listing on streaming services? Or
No,
anything?
no, I haven't. No, that's I sort of feel for me it's the artist's work. Rel will spin them all on the day at Union Heights.
Sick.
At various stages. In typical DJ fashion, he's like, "Can we do a mixtape?" Jay Red was, "Can we do a mixtape?"
Yeah.
And you go, man, if they can, that'd be sick. Like Rel and Jay Red together are crazy if you've ever seen them cut together.
Well, man, Rallick did the intro for the podcast.
Yeah.
And he's done an intro for me for Benchmark Bars, and Jay Red has just done intro for me for my radio thing I'm doing. So,
yeah, wow.
So, work with those guys a few. Well, when I say work with them, they've, I've acquired their services.
Yeah.
But they're two of the best in the business by far.
Two of the best, man. Yeah, like Jay Red still, you watch him and you freak out. And Rel's just got that ear.
And he does the design and everything too,
he's a freak, man. He's a freak. He's genuinely one of the most underrated heads going around for his contribution. You see and I know he talked about it on his episode, but you see his back catalogue of who he's done cuts for, and and you're not getting bias Mawns, these people coming to you for cuts if you whack.
Yeah.
It's nice he gets that kudos.
For sure. Man, so people can get down on the 11th at
Saturday
Union
the 11th.
Heights. They can jump onto the big cartel and pre-order now, or actually buy it.
Yes, you can buy it now.
Now?
Yep. We've just gone live. Orders, as I said, sort of about a week till they ship, and from them we try and consolidate. But jump on and buy it if you're keen, or even better, come down to Union Heights, say good day. We'll scribble on a couple of copies, and Frank will put on a dope day.
I'll be down there too, man.
Sick.
Yeah. Before we get to wrapping it up, is there anything else we need to touch on?
I don't think so, mate. No, just again, shout outs to all the artists in the book. I know I haven't mentioned them all. I probably should have had the book in front of me and just shouted out one at a time. But no, we'll save some interest too for people. But yeah, it is genuinely hand on heart, like just a lineup of ridiculously dope lyricists, quality humans, and the stories. Like if you pick a chapter, I can tell you another story behind it, and it's just like crazy. So it's an enjoyable read, I hope, for people who are into that.
For sure, man. And one of the reasons why I'm kind of wrapping it up is because I want you to come back, because you're an amazing guest, and I'm sure we could talk a lot longer about a lot of different stuff.
For sure.
Sport, but a lot of music, and it'd be cool to sort of, after the book is out there and people consume it, we could come back, maybe deep dive into a few chapters, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, we'll do a reading of excerpts, and when you hear this sound, turn the page.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you coming in. Behind the Lines, get out there and get it at Big Cartel or at Union Heights and selected other hip-hop stores around the country.
Spot on. Yeah, absolutely. And cheers for having me, man, and cheers for all you're doing too for the scene, mate. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers.
3,000.